Hey you guys, I'm so excited. Today I'm going to show you step by step how I made this sunflower cross. It looks amazing. Hey you guys, I'm so excited. Today I'm going to show you step by step how I made this sunflower cross. It looks amazing. It has so much depth. This technique, it's called intarsia. And I'm going to take you through step by step on how I made it. The woods I use for this cross is mahogany for the cross. I use green poplar for the stem and leaves. I use yellow heart for the petals, rosewood for the center of the flower. So there is no stains or paints into this. It's just the natural wood colors and the grain. And it has a backer board. This is made with Baltic birch plywood. If you want to purchase this cross, it is now available on my Etsy shop. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And also, it's probably a good time to remind you, if you have not yet joined our Facebook group, Sawdust and Splinter Woodworking Group, go check it out, join. We have over 32,000 members as of right now. So I love going in there and seeing all your projects you guys are working on, the photos and so on. So go check it out. I'll also put a link to that in the description below. But for now, let's see how I made this step by step, pretty easy project, and it looks amazing. So let's get going. Now, before we get starting, we have to look at the pattern and see what kind of wood we need. And I'm looking here at the image. So we need one color wood for the cross part. Then we need a different color wood for the stem and leaves. We need for the sunflower and for the middle of the sunflower. So the petals and the center. So here is what I decided to go with. For the sunflower petals, of course, I went with yellow heart because it's yellow and the sunflower is yellow. So I chose that. For the leaves and the stem, I have a piece of poplar that has a lot of green in it, so I'm going to use that. Now for the center of the sunflower, I think I'm going to go with this rosewood because it's super dark. So I think that's what I'm going to use there. And then for the cross part itself, I wanted to keep it with warm tones and I couldn't decide between these two pieces of mahogany. I think I like the darker one better. Let me get some mineral spirits. So I like to do this color check before I do any kind of scroll saw project. So this one I think would look super pretty being darker. That one would also look nice. And then that's the yellow heart, the poplar, and then the rosewood super dark. So I really like this one. However, this board has a really bad twist. And I'm afraid even if I cut the pieces small, it's going to eliminate a lot of that twist, but I'm afraid it's not going to sit flat. So I think I'm not going to use this. I'm going to keep with this one. So this is our colors together. This is what we're working with. And I think that's going to look super pretty. Now, when it comes to the thickness of the material, what I am going to do, I'm going to use 1/2 inch for the cross. I'm going to use 1/2 inch for the center. I'm going to use 3/4 inch for the petals and 3/4 inch for the stem and leaves. And I'm doing that because I want this flower to stand up from the cross. And then the center is 1/2 inch because I'm going to shape these petals inward so it looks recessed inside the flower, so the petals kind of explode to the outside. So that is my thought. And next step is to glue our pieces. So I made copies of every piece that we need. And the patterns will tell you this is the medium color wood that you have to use. This is the dark wood. Now for me, the cross is going to be not very dark. It's going to be that one. And then, I know that the center is going to be my rosewood. And the stem and the leaves is going to be my poplar. So I'm going to glue these pieces to my pieces of wood so I can then take them to the scroll saw and cut them. Now, I like to, when I glue my pattern to the wood, I like to put some blue tape on first, kind of like I had here from a leftover, and then glue my pattern to the blue tape, and that way when I peel it off, I leave no glue residue. Also, you have to pay attention to the grain direction. I can see that these petals, they're all going the grain this way. So when I glue this, I want to make sure it goes with the grain. And I can cut this whole thing at once and then separate the petals by itself because the grain goes in the same direction on all the petals. So I have this 3-inch blue tape. I'm gonna make it quick and easy so the grain goes that way. So I have no problem covering this really quickly. And then I'm just using Elmer's glue stick. Make sure I put plenty of glue in there. I do not want this to lift off as I'm cutting it. And we'll just glue it in there. Now I'm gonna go to the scroll saw and cut all my pieces out. I'll start with this one because I want to put the texture on this one to see if it works. And then I'm gonna use, for all of these cuts, I'm gonna use the Pegasus Modified Geometry Scroll Saw blade and number 3. Of course, I forgot to plug in the microphone, so there we go again. This is what we have so far. I cut all the pieces. For this veining, I use a number 12 blade just because I want it to be more pronounced. I want it to be a thicker cut. So we can see the petals are taller, the leaves are taller, the stem is taller, and then the cross and the center part of the flower, they are recessed. So now I need to remove all the patterns from the pieces. So this is number 15. I have to write on the back number 15. That way we know exactly which piece is which and we don't get confused. And then I can peel off the pattern with the blue tape. And I'm gonna do that with all the pieces, and that will give us a good idea of what our project is going to look like. So I'm going to quickly do that, and I'll see you in a bit. All right, I took all the papers off, and now I can see the colors and the cuts better. And it's not bad. I'm not the best at cutting on a scroll saw. So I think what I need to do now is I need to shape the petals of the flowers. And once I shape them, I am actually going to finish the whole sanding and everything, and then we'll see how this piece fits. If I need to adjust this piece, then I'll do it afterwards. But for now, sanding the petals. So I want to sand inwards, and I have a mechanical pencil. I'm going to trace my inside piece kind of like this to know exactly how much do I need to shape inwards on these pieces. Because I want them to kind of meet there. So let's see. So I have a mark, so I have to round over this part until it gets to that line. So that's what I'm gonna do next. Now to shape my petals, I'll be using this King Carter tool flex shaft. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And I'm gonna be using both of this. This is a coarser grit and this is a finer grit. This one is too squishy, so I have to inflate it. So I'm gonna use a bicycle pump and inflate this quickly. So you see this is a squishy drum sander. Just a few pumps should take care of it. There you go. That is good. And now it's inflated and we are ready to get to work. Now when I use this sander, it will kick a lot of dust. I do have a dust collector chute over here that is hooked up to my big dust collector. I'll also be using a full face mask because, well, I like my lungs, I would like to keep them, so this is what I'm using to protect myself. So let's get shaping. I don't know if you're able to see, but you see we tapered these petals all the way down to the level of the center. So now I could taper the ends this way too, towards the outside, and give it even more dimension. And I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna taper them just a little bit on the ends. And then I will also add a very small round over all around the edges to kind of separate them so you see each leaf individual. So very little round over and then tapered. I want to make sure when I taper the outside I do not go past my cross piece. So again, I am going to mark them, the ones that are meeting the cross, just so I know. So back to the sander, I'll be taking each one of these petals. I'm going to round over just the tips that way, and then a small round over all around to separate the petals from each other. So let's go do that. Also, when it comes to the leaves, what I will be doing is I'll do a small round over all around it. All the pieces will get a small round over. But the leaves, I'm going to taper them, the tips, outwards, so they will kind of melt downwards like this. So I'm gonna do that and I'll see you right back. All right, you guys, I did most of the shaping. This is rough shaping. We have to do a lot more work. But you see the leaves are, the petals are curving inwards and outwards, giving it more dimension. The leaves, again, tapering outwards. And this is just gonna make it look so much more realistic and 3D. Now there are parts here where this leaf meets the petal. I couldn't get in here with my big sander, so I have to take a Dremel tool and round over that, or just with a hand sander. So I need to fix that. And then also now we need to put this texture where the flower seeds are. The instructions on the pattern, it says to glue a whole bunch of dowels that are rounded on the top. And that's how you make the center, but I think it would be a lot easier if we just take this piece and texture it. So let's go to the table. So I'm gonna use my rotary tool and I'm gonna use this little ball burr. And I'm just gonna drop it on the piece of wood and try to make some half circles to create that texture. So of course this piece, it's very small. I will clamp it to my bench, make sure that I'm not putting holes into my fingers. So I'm just going to clamp it, do as many holes as I can here, then turn it around and finish making the texture. Hopefully this works. I have never done this pattern before, so I have no idea. I will first try just a sample here onto this piece of walnut before I actually go to my real piece, just to make sure it's going to work. I think it's going to work just fine. So let's get to it. So now that we textured the center, I think it's looking fantastic. It's going to look really, really nice. So now comes the not so fun part. Now we have to sand everything by hand. I will start with 120 and I'll go all the way to 220. And I want to start with the petals because I want to sand them completely until it's done. Then I will also put the finish on them and I am going to glue them up as a circle. That way I can sand the middle piece until it fits perfectly. Right now I have a little bit of an error somewhere because if I put them all together, I get a tiny little bit of gap. That means this piece is bigger on some part and I can't tell which one it is. So by gluing the petals together, then I will sand this to fit perfectly into the center. Well, now it looks like it fits, but then it gives me a little gap here. I don't know. I'm gonna take these guys and hand sand them one by one, and then we'll put the finish on them, and then I will glue them up. Hey you guys, I have finished sanding my piece. I have it here on this piece of plywood. You will see it in a second. I hand sanded all the way to 220. It did take me a few hours to sand it, but that's okay. And now it's time to do our final fit check and color check. For that, I'll be using some of this transfer paper, and this is just clear. It has a paper backing, and when we remove the paper backing, we just have a clear sticky film. You can use a shelf liner as well. It will do the same thing. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm going to tape this one sticky side up. And that way I can stick my pieces straight into this paper and they will not move around. And that way I can see if my fit is correct. And also this will help me when I will do the glue up, because it's not gonna shift around, and while the glue is drying, it will stay together. So remove the paper backing. If you want, you can put your pattern underneath this so you can see through it and you know where to put your pieces. This being a very simple pattern, I don't think I need to do that. So I'm gonna start peeling this paper from one side, and I'm gonna use some blue tape to hold it in place. This is gonna help us so much. I love using this stuff. All right, so now that we have it sticky side up, I am going to start placing the pieces here, and while I take them from this plywood to move them here, I'm gonna give them a good wipe with mineral spirits, just to make sure that everything is looking the way I want them to. When it comes to the finish, I'll be using this Old Master Gel Poly. I really like this one. There are a few brands that sell something like this. They're all really good. So I'm just going to open it. And this is just kind of like a preliminary finish. I'm gonna put a few more coats in the end while it's all glued up to the backer. For now, I just wanna put a little finish so then it gets into all those crevices. And it looks like my container was not sealed. It got all hard, which is okay. This is, it did what it's supposed to do. I'm just going to rip the hard part off, and then we have nice consistency underneath to work with. This is what you want to decant when you work with it. You don't want to work straight from the container. You don't want to expose it to air for too long because it will cure. All right, I'm gonna change my gloves. And there you go. I got a big blob on my table now. I swear I go through a few boxes of globes per month. I'll be applying this with a rag, also with a brush. We'll see what works the best. I'm gonna give this a little stir with this gel consistency. I'm gonna put some in here, otherwise leave it too much open, it will harden again. That should be plenty. I'm going to close my container. All right, I'll start from the bottom, and basically I'm just gonna take a little bit of the finish, kind of wipe it on. I'll try not to go too much on the sides. I just want to get the very top of the sides. Like I said, it's going to get a few more coats after I glue it up. And you don't want to let it sit for too long. So do a few pieces, go back, wipe it off. I still have plenty of finish here. I didn't use it all, so I'm just gonna put it back in the container. And make sure when you work with oil-based finishes that you dispose of the rags properly. I have a red fireproof container outside my shop in the middle of the driveway, and that's where I put my rags for a few days until they dry up, and then I will toss them into the garbage. It's the next morning and it's time to glue up our project. For the glue, I'll be using this Well Bond. It works pretty much on any surfaces, and it dries completely clear, so that's why I'm using this. It's important that it dries clear because we'll be spray painting the backer black, so I don't want to have white glue looking through if I have any kind of gaps. So clear, it is the best. So I'm gonna put some here on the side, and I'll be using 1/2-inch brush to put my glue on. I also have 100 grit sandpaper, and that is because when I put the finish yesterday, I try not to go all the way to the bottom on the edges, because then the glue won't stick to it. So if I have pieces that I need to put glue and it has finish on the side, I can just give it a tiny little bit of scratch with this, remove the finish, and just to make sure my glue is bonding properly. So I put the pattern underneath this sticky paper that we used yesterday, and that way I can see where I need to place my pieces. And let's see what else. I will be removing the blue tape before I glue it, and let's get gluing. I'm going to start with, let's see, what do we want to start with? I'll put the center first in here, so it's gonna go like that. And so I will remove the blue tape. It's going to go over here. How did it go? Like this. Stick it down. And now this is the number 8. This one goes here. Okay. And I'm just gonna do this with every single piece, put a little bit of glue, stick it in there, and we'll see you when I'm all done with this. Right, you guys, when I removed the piece from the sticky paper, this part came apart, so I have 2 pieces here. I could put some CA glue and glue them together, but I think I can just trace it just like this. Not worried about it. So we need to make a backer. I'll use a 1/4 inch Baltic birch for the backer. So I put my cross on it and I'm going to start tracing. So this is my pattern traced. Now I want the backer to be smaller than my cross, so I'm gonna go and trace on the inside something like this. And this is where I will be cutting this. And I'll be cutting this with the number 3 blade because I wanted to keep the wood from splintering. So I'll get a very clean edge. I ended up using some CA glue and gluing this piece to this piece that was apart. And I cut the backer. So I cut it, you can see it has a little bit of reveal all around it. And that way we don't see the backer when we look at the piece from the front. And now we need to paint the backer. I'm gonna make it black. I don't want to paint the back of it. I'm gonna leave that the natural color. I just want the part that is gonna be right underneath the cross. So I will have to blue tape this side. So because I will be spraying this with some black primer, and this will prevent this part from getting the primer. And now I'm gonna go outside and spray some of this on it. This should dry really, really quick. In about 5 minutes, we'll be ready for glue up. The primer is dry and it's time to glue our piece to the backer board. I'll be using a combination of the same glue that we used to glue the piece together because it's clear, so we'll see the black through it. And then on the edges, I'll put some CA glue, and that will act like a clamp and hold it down. So that's what we're going to do. Looking great. And now we'll go all around it with the CA glue. And now I'm gonna put some weights on it to hold it down. And let's see. What I'll do, I'll take a whole bunch of clean rags so it doesn't scratch. And then I'll put some really heavy weights on it. there you go. We'll let it sit for about 15 minutes until the CA glue is really cured. And then we are going to apply a little 1 or 2 more coats of finish on it.